A bit of a dilemma. What? And we're live.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to While Unemployed,
I got a question here.
where,
Where is Kent?
yeah, he's
That's
still unemployed. Why isn't he here?
Welcome
Sorry, I'm
everybody except Kent to While
Yep.
Unemployed.
While we wait for Kent, we will talk about the things two unemployed guys talk about and do what two unemployed guys do, like play TFT.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly, I've been taking some beatings. Still Platinum 3, going through Platinum 3 through Platinum 2 to 1. And maybe I'll eventually get Emerald. I took some learnings from Kent the other day that we played. I think it was
that's your
last
problem.
week. No,
No,
well,
that's your problem.
actually, Kent put me on a pretty good comp that isn't super contested. I actually ended up making an Nebessa 3-star, which is a 4 cost. Um, I thought that was pretty dope. Won the entire game, and I keep top fouring every single game that it's not contested. So, which is like pretty much like 80% of the time it's not contested. Right now, everyone's running Voids too, so there's some contests and Noxus, but like it's not that heavy, you know?
That's crazy. I guess that means today I'm playing Ambessa.
Oh yeah, feel free to. I'll just play Yordle. I win
Fair.
every time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Kent, are you good?
sorry. Monitor arm gave out, so my mic's just going all the way up. So,
That's all right. While Kent figures out his
Yeah.
life. How was y'all's last 7 days since we last talked?
I'll go first
How's it been? How's it
Since
going?
Ken is fighting for his life right now. It was fun. I had a volunteer opportunity for Lunar New Year. Went to a little festival over at the I don't know the name of it, but it's a racetrack. It's pretty big. It's like a stadium. Um, there was a small multicultural center which encompassed Asian culture. There was some European cultures, and I think that's it really. There was Turkish. There was Asia was highly represented all around. It was fun. It was fun. It was pretty low maintenance. All I had to do was pick up a couple of chairs and some tables, help a couple of people out with their stuff. But low maintenance. It was fun once the shade came in. Because otherwise it was like 80 something degrees perhaps, and it was just the worst because I took my pants with me and just a regular shirt. But other than that, it was pretty good. I had a great Valentine's Day. I know that was technically last week, but that was in the past maybe 7 days or 8 days actually technically, just short of the 7 day cutoff. No, but overall can't complain except for this weather. So weather in what is it, LA area, Southern California, has been the worst lately. It's been super heated. So if you hear me complain, it'll always be about the weather. Everything else is juicy.
It's interesting because this past week it hit like the upper 70s in Little Rock,
Oh,
but today it's like 40.
oh. Well, we
So I'm
also
wearing a
had
jacket.
Yeah, we also had something similar to that 2 days ago, where it was like, was it 2 days ago? I don't know. It was like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and it was for like 3 days. It was incredibly cold, and then out of the nowhere, boom, heat.
The
Yeah,
heat.
yeah. Keep in mind, I also live on the not the mountaintops, but the at the foothill of the mountains. So in the foothill area, and we saw. So my girlfriend yesterday saw the mountain tops all white. So like there was snow there. Now we were in like 60, 70 degree weather, 80 degree weather, but the mountaintops were pretty like cold. So Saturday, she's like, "What do you think do you think we could go up there?" Within an hour, we were up there because we're at the foothills. We have this really cool canyon drive that takes us through all of LA. It splits into several different like, how do you say it? I wish I could show it. I didn't know I was gonna be telling the story. Um, it takes you like 4 or 5 different directions, and honestly, it's you can end up in Glen. You can go like 30 miles around and end up in Glendale. So we're over in Azusa. You can end up in Pasadena. You can end up in around Eagle Rock in LA. And for those of you that don't know, those are like areas that are like 30, 40 miles away from each other, and you can get there through this canyon, and it's like beautiful scenery. However, if you've ever watched like Tokyo Drift, it's very similar to that. The mountain is very similar to that. It's like very curvy and very like quickly you um, turn, and so lots of rough edges and turns, but it's definitely worth the view. And then sometimes you do have to take like chains on your tires simply because it gets very slippery because it is a mountainous range, and so there is random puddles that are coming from the mountain down into like the main lake. They go through the road into the lake, and sometimes there's snow. So it's you don't know what you're gonna get, and I think that's the coolest part about the entire thing is that we woke up and we're just like, can we just go up there? And in our shorts and like a sweater, we're driving up the mountain range with our donuts and our coffee, and we spent 2 hours driving through the range. Driving through the mountains or the canyons, and we're getting heat, we're getting snow, we're getting the lake, just everything in and in between. And we're just like, should we just go to the beach, drive to the beach after this, just to make the full California experience, right? Where you can hit all of those, every single one of those, like I guess landscapes, and we're like sick. But it was beautiful. But that was my weekend.
What about you, Kent?
What did I do? Honestly, I did do a lot of I actually stayed home majority of the weekend, unfortunately. I had a lot of housekeeping I had to do, due to a lot of packages or product I received.
Ooh,
Give or take.
what'd you order? If you don't mind sharing, obviously.
Uh, oh, it's more so just stuff I received from a friend's girlfriend because she had to move back to China, so she was just
Oh,
giving
I
out
see.
like
That's right.
the stuff
That's
she
right.
wasn't able to take with her. So a lot of what I received was more so cookware.
Okay,
So trying to rearrange my shelves and everything to accommodate everything was a little bit of a challenge.
okay.
But I've been long overdue with just a lot of the housework and upkeep, especially grocery shopping too. So
Okay, and
I've been eating out
now
way
add
too much.
fixing that mic boom arm to your
Yep.
list.
The yeah. At this point, actually, I think it just gave out entirely
Yeah, just
mechanically, so I have to
take it
order.
out and then put the boom mic right underneath you on the table, so it also
Oh,
doesn't disrupt, and you don't have your hand holding up the entire time.
yeah, I'm gonna have
Simple solutions, brother.
I'm well for
Yeah,
the
how
meantime.
are you gonna play TFT one-handed?
Well, I feel like that one's doable.
That's doable,
But how are you
actually.
gonna
I
play?
might.
No, never mind. That's inappropriate.
All right, it's
Well,
so Kent, weren't you telling me like yesterday something about this Pokemon 30th anniversary event that was happening at like I think a baseball stadium that you missed?
I don't think it was a baseball stadium. It was more, at least I think Rudy was aware of a different event, is what was discussed. But more so, Nintendo or the Pokemon Company made an announcement. Oh, this is our 30th anniversary, and we have essentially a year-round campaign to promote it. So, A lot of collaborations are going to be happening throughout the year. You know, your McDonald's. They just announced Uniqlo, Adidas, and a handful of other companies. But more so, recent news. They just announced Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green, so we're released on the Switch 2 digitally. They announced the anniversary logo. What else? If we're looking at TCG, there's a lot of promotional cards or promotional designs that they're going to be putting out um, to commemorate it. So, just like they did with the Van Gogh Pokemon card or the Van Gogh Pikachu, they'll be doing something similar for the year. It's just one big celebration, especially since Pokemon is a massive IP. So,
Yeah, it's
I don't know if
interesting because it's interesting because I know the Pokemon 30th anniversary is this year. I know that Pokemon was released sometime in February, which is why the campaign just started. But there's something that my wife and I couldn't figure out while we were in Japan last month, and that's while we were in the Pokemon Center in Shibuya. I bought a shirt, but every time I passed by an employee, they were saying "Happy Holidays" to me. So I thought the 30th anniversary, for some reason, started in January. So I don't know why they were saying "Happy Holidays."
Do you think it could have been a
This,
local thing?
I looked. This is just a random. I think it was like January 20th, 23rd. So it's and they were the only ones that whole day that was saying "Happy Holidays." So I feel like it was Pokemon related. I just don't know what it was.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe it was like
Yeah.
an internal thing where the game was like you play the game and then everyone was responding with like like all the NPCs were like happy holidays and they like
Well, maybe.
went about their audio, perhaps. Who knows? I also saw the Pokemon stuff that was happening here in LA related to what Kent was saying. I don't know what it was. Thanks for adding clarity to that, Kent, because I just saw a couple of folks and friends that were posting on their stuff like, "Oh, shout out to Pokemon for that event in LA," and I was like, "Wait, I'm like right here. What? Why do I know about it?" But I'm also not that involved in Pokemon, but I saw a lot of people posting about it, so I'm like, "Oh, that looks pretty sick. Would have loved to go had I known." I think tickets were like 30
from
bucks.
what from what I heard, or not what I heard, there's going to be a Pokemon Go event going on this coming weekend. So if you do play the game, definitely
No.
worth stopping by or playing. Oh, fine. I guess it's just me.
Do you play
uh,
Pokemon Go, Kent?
Sorry.
Do you play Pokemon Go?
Yes, not as religiously as I used to, though.
I feel like it's not as religiously as anyone has really used to.
Well, ever since they
Uh,
found out, and but guys, by the way, I called it when Pokemon Go first started, they were going to be using your GPS data to track the areas you were doing their job for them. Ever since that, I think a lot of people dropped off.
uh,
Did you hear about
I
that?
there was there. I
I
don't
did
know if
not hear
people
about
dropped
that.
off. The thing is, I'm not too sure if people dropped off because of that. I think it was more so when COVID kicked in, everyone was stuck home, started remote raiding. That became the trend, and there wasn't. In addition, there wasn't a lot of content coming out at the time. So, give or take, at some point you'd hit the cap, the level cap, plus the content cap. So similar to like an MMO, I guess you can say.
And that, like, speaking of COVID, one of the, I think, funniest things that I saw in regards to like Nintendo during lockdown was the year prior, or the 2 years prior to lockdown. Everyone was playing Pokemon Go. Everyone was outside. There were large groups of people walking around having fun. Lockdown happens. There's now this large group of people staying inside playing Animal Crossing, and Nintendo's really just dictating what we do, which was awesome. I thought that was like some of the funniest things, or one of the funniest things to come out of lockdown.
Oh, here we go. So
Oh,
let me change this over. Hopefully, you guys can see it. Uh, It says Niantic used Pokemon Go player data to build AI navigation system. Visual scans of the world have helped Niantic build what it calls a large geospatial model. And that was the biggest thing that hit last year, where they are essentially scoping out. It's like Google Earth, but much up close. much closer with pictures and everything. So when you take a picture of your Pokemon, it removes the Pokemon. It just shows the image and the location of that image, and then it maps out the entire thing based off of like where they place Pokemon strategically to for you to be able to take pictures of those Pokemon and essentially fill out the maps for them.
So what they're doing is they're running the it's what Google does already, which is they have the car going around taking photos of the surrounding to help build out that visual for Google Maps.
Yeah, essentially. But they use people to do that. They deploy people and they deploy special events in Pokemon around those areas so that people can go and take pictures. Oh, I'm catching a Pokemon. No, they're like, no, they're taking a picture. Like you are essentially feeding into the corpo the images for free.
So now there's a navigation app out there that is fueled 100% by nostalgia.
Correct.
That's
I'll take
insane.
that. I'll take
Yeah,
that.
I linked you guys. I linked you guys to the Reddit. But they found that out, and then once they found that out, some people like, I guess, kind of threw a fit about it a little bit. And I don't really.
That's really funny. That's insane at like from like a business model perspective, and that's like I guess really smart. Just again from a business aspect, but that's insane.
Yeah, one user commented they paid us trinkets. Let me actually switch here. One user commented, they paid us trinkets to quote unquote scan objects by walking around 360 degrees. They spent many words encouraging us to take pictures of our Pokemon in the real world. Even more trinkets for that sometimes. I'm sure there are more ways we do their bidding. Of course, they were recording us. Yeah, a lot of people feel like, you have that, and then you have someone that's saying that kind of understands the risks. They're like, hey, if you enable location data to always on, then yes, I do hatch eggs, etc. I know the risks and accept them. Then they put an edit. Reading the article further, this is more about the user uploaded Pokestop scans we have all been submitting. So some people understand. They know that it's been happening. They understand the risk. They're okay with it. They think, oh, it's simple data, right? And others are like, hey, I feel like I'm being used. I think from a business perspective, you're totally right, Milo. Like it is incredibly smart for Pokemon and Niantic to say to have this as like get everyone outside because I remember how people discussed it at first. So like, oh, it's a gaming has turned everybody from during COVID, and then right after COVID, they're like, oh, Pokemon Go is making everybody finally go outside again, and it feels like I'm part of a community. Like right, there's always that initial reaction, and then later on. As more people were going out and doing these things, people started suspecting a little something. They continue to play the game, but then eventually the news broke out that they're being tracked. Well, not being tracked, but they're doing the bidding of Pokemon Go, but it's incredibly smart from the company's perspective. If they weren't being transparent, though, it can come out as treacherous. So, lots to say about what is going on there.
Personally,
Go ahead,
go
Ken.
on, Kent.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw this out there. For some clarity, Niantic actually sold Pokemon Go to Scopely. So,
Mm-hmm. What's Scopely?
Why does Scopely sound so
Scopely,
familiar?
so they're essentially a Pokemon guide company. So what they've done, so
That's
a
why.
lot, I
Okay.
guess, yeah, they're used for like competitive. What else did they do? It was more so just Pokemon information as a whole. Um, and what they did was they acquired, or because Niantic wasn't turning enough of a profit, if I remember correctly, they sold it over to Scopely, and I believe they sold a couple other IPs as well, or possibly just Pokemon Go. Sorry for the lack of uh, confidence in that response, but
Oh, it's all
I
good.
do remember them being sold out or
Okay.
sold over.
Yeah, Monopoly Go, Pokemon Go, and Pikmin Bloom.
Yeah, let me
Wow.
actually. So it looks like they have a lot of different properties. They have. I'm looking at Monopoly Go, Pokemon Go, Stumble Guys, the official Yahtzee, Star Trek Fleet Command, Marvel Strike. Also,
They
a lot
own
of
a lot
IPs.
of big IPs, yeah.
Yeah,
Or at
Mm-hmm.
least the license to a lot of big IPs.
I was gonna say yeah. I wonder. They even have a creator program and everything, but I wonder what they do with that data, right? Like that's the $1 million question for me. It's like, what are they actually doing with the data that they gained from Pokemon Go, and how do they use that? I think that's that'll be something worth looking into for later, right? Because they have all these other properties. How are they? How is that useful?
I mean, if you're since they were already collecting geodata, if anything, they could sell or license that data out to, let's say, Uber, uh, Google themselves if they really wanted to, Yahoo Maps if it's still around, etc., to help re, I guess, supplement their existing data um,
Sure.
with what they've collected.
For Pokemon Go, for example, like you can turn this into a mass marketing engine. In my opinion, that localizes that geodata. Um, if that means anything, what I'm trying to say is imagine having small businesses or franchises to buy ads or ad space to get people to go into their businesses to capture a rare event or something to that effect. Like imagine having the ability to just launch whatever rare Pokemon there might be at a mom and pop shop, right? To help them. Let's say they bought some ad space. There's packages available for them. You do a small rare event to get people there, right? And then suddenly that mom and pop shop doesn't have to go out of business, or they get supported by the community. Now, obviously, that's like Twinkle, no, let's say Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It's very wishy and dreamy, but most likely they're going to offer. I'm guessing they would offer this data to the highest bidder. You were thinking a franchise like McDonald's or something to that effect to get people in their immediate area around, let's say, dinner time or lunchtime, to then get them to perhaps go and get something, right? Or they also have co-collaborations with them where there's already Pokemon licensed. Let's say a McDonald's meal, a Big Mac meal, that where you get a Pokemon toy. What's to say that they're not going to use this data that they have with Pokemon Go to then get people on there to buy more of these meals, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to taking advantage of the data. I like they have a whole portfolio of a bunch of different things, so I don't understand how that might make sense with other like IPs that they license. So that for me is kind of like the burning question. It's like, what are they doing with this data across all of their other properties?
The world will never know.
I guess we'll never know.
Unless we all three of us apply to Scopely, and then we can come back in like 2 months with the answer.
They said
Because
they said no, guys.
because I think I heard of Scopely for it could have been one of two reasons. One, I could have applied there. Um, Two, I think because what I was doing before, we were creating mini games for K through 12 students within Minecraft, and I think we created a Fall Guys alternative, and I think we wanted to call it Stumble Guys, but Scopely had that name.
Oh, right here, yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think we ended up calling it Tumble Dudes. But
It's kind of like this
tomato,
podcast,
tomato,
right?
right?
Yeah, it's like kind of like this podcast, right? It's like three. What is it? One brain
Yeah,
cell and a
it's
mic or
two
something
brain
like that.
cells and a Kent. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And every single
Two
name is taken.
working boom arms and Kent.
Oh, I
I'm
love
still
it.
I'm all in for three apes with a mic. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so cool. Let's wrap up Pokemon. Because there's a lot of questions that we have that cannot be answered. And I am not about to take the time to go through that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So Kent, yesterday you brought up a trend that you were noticing on LinkedIn. It's a trend that I think, I mean, it's been on my like timeline too, where social media managers are being asked to wear too many hats. In essence, like what a social media manager used to be is now kind of this blanket phrase for a set of responsibilities that all or that essentially encompasses your entire work uh, workflows through social media. So content creation, graphic design, content scheduling, posting, it's editing, it's a lot. What are your opinions about what is going on with that? Because I have some opinions.
uh honestly, I think a lot of the issue is companies are trying to find opportunities to cut costs, and what role can you and trying to consolidate as many roles into one. I think that's been the trend, especially with current economy. But social media managers now are expected to be the jack of all trades at this point. They need to know community, they need to know marketing strategy, they need to know
I know. I saw you have the house
I,
sheet.
what else? They need to know marketing strategy, they need to know how to do content creation, they need to know how to do the production side of it. The list goes on, and we're at a point where it's become such a recurring trend on job postings. It's become a popular topic on social media, or social media, LinkedIn more specifically, where I've seen, give or take, throughout the last few months, I've seen give or take 40 or 50 posts about that same recurring topic.
That's
And
nuts.
the consensus is you cannot have one person doing every role when every expectation they had or every additional role they were asking for took one to maybe two to three people to do to begin with. So on it's got into the extreme to where the frustration is progressively boiling out or starting to boil over, but because of the current uh I guess job state, there isn't much people can also do at the same time as well, other than try to increase their skill set or essentially increase or diversify their skill set in order to just meet the demand.
Totally, I agree. And like we talked about, first episode of While Unemployed is the fact that AI is also plays a really big factor specifically on social media. You have AI generating text, AI generating images. So one person, I think that has the most to do on, well, two things. One, how AI has impacted social media and the ability for one person to do a bunch of other things. Two, the lack of education on the employer side, on the whoever is making these jobs. Because keep in mind the way that people make jobs is they sit down and they have like a wishful list of things. I want this person to do this. I want this person to do that. I want them to have all of these things packaged into one social media manager. And then they send that out to the world and say, okay, well, let's see who's willing to bite on this. If no one does, they come back, they rearrange, they get a little more education, and they'll do the thing again. But you're like to your point, Ken. The job market right now is in such a state that everyone's willing to be those five different people, with the help of AI tooling, where they can leverage that to accomplish all of these things, and thus validating the employer who is putting out all of this, pardon my French, all of this dumb shit of what they believe one person should do, right? And not only are they now the video editor, so they're the producers, they're the video editors, they're the content managers, they're the content creators, um, they're the community managers. Like, there's so much that's being asked of social media, and I think the root of the problem is, so the root of that problem is that one, it's social media managers who people who are asking for social media managers where they don't actually know what a social media manager does. They just have an impression of what they should be doing because of they talk to someone or they see what someone else said, or they maybe asked another social media manager and they've described their job to them, um, or it's because they're like, oh well, AI can just help these guys so they can do the jobs of like 20 different people. So social media managers in general are definitely going through it right now.
If anything, I can throw this out there. Based off of my previous experience, there was an expectation from the top of the top, or the top of the company,
Yeah,
for the sake of keeping things vague. um, to have yeah, there was an expectation that social needed to do a lot more than what was already being done, and a lot of that had to do with the idea that, or not the idea, a lot of that had to do with his bosses asking him to find ways to cut additional cost in the form of, let's say, workforce reduction as an example. So if you can pressure your teams or your departments to take on more in order to retain a job, people will make those compromises.
100%. Milo, you look like you have something to say.
I have a lot to say.
Let's hear it.
The it is, yes, AI does help consolidate all the roles in the blanket in the blanket job that is social media. However, with like as someone that has done social media management, as someone that is chronically on social media, I think it's not I think you develop an eye for what is AI. You develop an eye for what is a Canva template. And I don't know how the general public feels, but with if since everyone is using the same tools, and AI is learning and pulling from the same sources, generally, everything is starting to look so uniform that it's becoming incredibly off-putting, which I think is a good word. Like when I see something AI generated, when I see something on a Canva template, my first initial reaction at that point is lazy.
Hmm.
Like that is a company that does not value um, the the relationships, or at least their storefront on social media, or that is a company that didn't understand the role that social media plays within marketing. But when you see, but the other side of that coin is when you see something created by a graphic designer, and there are millions of talented graphic designers all over the country, all over the world. It feels refreshing. It feels good because you know there's that there's that moral standpoint of a human made this, and also the company cared enough to put in that extra care. It's starting to reflect in the work, because in a world where everything is becoming more efficient because of the AI usage,
Mhm.
everything is becoming super standardized and super uniform. So again, just like I said in the first episode, that human element really does make a difference right now. I don't know if I'm one of the early people that feel that way, but I feel like as more things get produced at the volume that it's being produced in, people are going to start to see and feel that, whether or not they can put that into words and
Sure.
really just explain like that looks weird or
Yeah.
that looks wrong.
I think uh, I think you hit a good note there, which is companies definitely tend to undervalue social media. Here's also why: a lot of companies don't have their existing fan base on social media. That's as simple as
Yeah.
you can make it. Like when it comes to esports and gaming companies, traditionally, yes, of course they have to be plugged in. They have to churn out content because that's the name of the game. The audience is chronically online. You're looking at brands that then you talk to other historic brands, historic being folks who have been there that are not within gaming and esports. Some of them will tell you newsletter works just fine. It really depends on the product, right? They can
Right.
produce stuff for newsletters, or they have most of their audiences. Like when you go to Gap, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure those are real images of real photo shoots, right? But all I care about is the discount that's presented on there, right? Because you have to look at this from a business perspective, where some companies are: do I hire someone, an artist or a graphic designer, for the high rate of, well, I don't know, $30, $40 an hour, or can I get away with adding more credits to an account, giving a prompt, and then just tossing it to the social media manager and telling them to churn out the content that way for the basic necessities that we have, which are perhaps our newsletter, and then we can use that same graphic across everything else, right? It's like companies are leveraging AI to undervalue artists and undervalue social media and undervalue other areas where, if we don't have to be chronically online, like make long form content and be on YouTube, make loads and loads of short form content, like that isn't, because I mean, obviously the different types of short form content. There's some that are like educational, perhaps, that you can make on Canva and put it on there. You can also have AI spit it out if you want to, or you can use Canva and pair it with AI. You know what I mean, to like help you push that out. So some of them are thinking, why go through the lengths of waiting until next week, having paying $500 a day for a producer, $300 a day for a camera person, plus the plus 150 $300 an hour for them to edit the pictures post mortem. Why do I need all of this when I can package a lot of that and just give it to AI with a prompt? From a business perspective, earlier to what you were talking about, Milo, how Pokemon Go uses your data, you said it was smart for them to have people do the bidding for them, right? Same thing from a business perspective. A lot of companies, I imagine the mindset is, I can just have AI do my bidding for me, right? And then where that can be done is where they start cutting people and processes and start asking other people to essentially learn how to leverage AI to do those jobs. Um, so that is something that I think that we're seeing why social media management is being packed into why five, six, 6 to 10 different roles are being packaged into social media. It's simply just P&L.
Yeah,
For a shady way of saying it, it's P&L.
yeah. The something very tangential, but is experiencing this again, yeah, tangentially, is the film industry, the movie industry. Netflix is, I forgot who said it like a few weeks ago, but they stated that Netflix is specifically asking filmmakers to produce films with the same plot because data has shown Netflix that Netflix is on for background noise. People are scrolling on their phones. So they're producing new content with the same plot so that it's something new but something familiar so that you don't really have to pay that much attention. Now that so
I know
the
about
how
this,
it
yeah.
relates, yeah, so how that relates is that there are I think the best way to phrase it, because I love movies, is there are movies like what Netflix is producing, but then there are films. That's where the art students, that's where the like Cannes Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where those are produced, where like they're trying to make art. Now, art necessarily isn't like commercial in the sense where people are going to pay to see it. So relating that back to social media, yes, the cost of a marketing department is huge. And I'm sure businesses are weighing or are seeing that for pennies on the dollar, you can hire one person that knows how to use AI kind of well to produce a bajillion assets. Or you can win favor with your community by hiring real artists, by ethically sourcing um, all of your marketing needs. But that's going to cost you an arm and a leg for maybe a small bump in the bottom line. It's just, I understand that it's not worth it for companies, but it's going to hit critical mass soon, and it's just going to keep evolving as technology keeps growing.
I'm telling you, it really just depends where that audience is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, for us, we know the value of Discord, right? We know the value of Reddit. We know the value of Twitter. Do you think Gap cares about that? Real
Oh, of
question.
course not.
Why is that, Ken?
Yeah, Kent, you were in fashion.
Depend.
Tell us.
Oh gosh. So I'll speak to my own experience, not on behalf of Gap. Um, from my own experience, the consumer base for my previous company was essentially only on your mainstream social media platforms. Most of their attention, most of their, I guess, yeah, most of their consumers were primarily on Instagram. They were on TikTok. They were in areas where they could just quickly scroll through content if they happen to go through our content. Great. If it was, well, assuming it was served to them, if they're already following us as a brand, then that's what they're going to be looking for. Since they're there looking to shop more specifically, they don't. Most of them don't really care to socialize or interact with
Correct.
other consumers. More so, how if at best they would probably ask who has a link to this product. But because we already fulfill because we already fulfilled that ask by providing them links in, could be a link in bio, could be in the post itself, whatever it may be. You've disincentivized them from having to even get involved with
Yeah.
a community based platform.
So, what Ken is underlyingly saying without saying here, social media is a top of funnel activity. It is just meant for them to get you, the consumer, to know that they exist, that they have a trend going, that they have an offer going, that they exist as a company. whatever it may be. That's what content is leveraged for. It's to give you a sense of belonging within that community, or make that what's the word? It's like resemble. It's for you to look at their content and say, oh, this is for me. Then you go to the social media pages, you look at the rest of the content, you're like, oh yeah, I like the stuff that they have going on. It's a display, it's a digital billboard, and then the conversion, like Ken mentioned, starts when you start clicking links and going to the website. It's up to the website to convert you. The offering, the whatever you land on, everything else, that's up to them, right? It's like social media serves as a top of funnel activity for folks to get into the rest of everything that the company has to offer. And the reason and the type of content that they create to get you there is very different across everybody's brand, obviously. Um, in some cases, like for example, again, gaming and esports, they have to continually talk to you to re-engage you, for you to come back and say, oh, they have all of these things going on, because you have constant things that are going on that need immediate metrics. They need viewership on streams. They need sales being created or made. They need website hits to report to stakeholders, whatever it might be. In other areas, like you have your Sheins and your Gaps, they go off of sales. Obviously, you have a lot of people. You have a massive newsletter, and you always want to brag about the percentages that you have people that interacted or opened that email. But generally, you create this cocktail mix of activities of conversion, right? And you start at the top, which is awareness, and that's what you use social media for. You don't use it to cultivate a community, to be like, hey guys, let's do these recurring events so you can get associated with the brand, get this closeness with the brand, and gap for life, whatever it might be. No, there's just these posts that go out through the top of funnel channels. Say, here's what Gap stands for. Here's what Gap is up to. Here's an offer. And then through that content piece, you eventually start going down the funnel till eventually they make a conversion, because it's likely that they have a sale, or you go into the newsletter and then they continue to target you there. Different channels are worth more in different segments, right? And so it matters to say that some companies don't really care about social media and social media managers and social media management, because it is not a valuable channel for their core audience. They know that they can invest, let's say, I don't know what social media salary is in the place, but let's just say $8,000 a month to pay somebody's salary, plus an additional $2,000-3,000 to pay an intern or someone part time to help them. That's $11,000 a month. But that channel isn't going to be turning over more sales than their existing tried and true channels that already work for them, right? And so it needs to be said that social media isn't as valuable. You can't rate the value of social media to every brand the same way across the board, because there are other mediums that existed before social media that a lot of companies got very good at converting their audience and making dollars out of. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what is the future then? Is this something that y'all feel that is going to stay as main place for social media managers? Is this just the constant now? Are we establishing a new floor and a new definition?
Okay, I'll let you go first.
I think until we start, because the whole AI, since we dabbled back into AI quickly, until there's some level of regulation or some level of limitation to, I guess, how AI is being utilized, I'm pretty sure this is going to be the norm for a while, where social media managers do need to take on several types of roles or several roles in order to maintain relevance within the job market. If anything, I guess the only way to really stop this is if some sort of law or some sort of law passes to where you cannot have AI be a justification, or the use of AI to be a justification to have someone take on multiple roles, or at least, but how do you stop something like that? um, especially when you have, I guess, if we look at the bigger picture, AI usage is being normalized heavily right now. Everyone's using ChatGPT to some degree, or some other platform adjacent to it, right? Um, it's possibly overtaking Google in terms of use case or in terms of looking up stuff nowadays. So unless there again, unless someone does have a moral compass and stops or at least restricts AI, we're all wearing four hats, guys. We're all wearing four or five hats.
Yeah. So the question, Milo, was: is this something that's going to stay?
Yeah. Is this the norm? Is this something that we should just expect?
Um, I think you're going to see hints of that frequently because again, people are going to try to get away with as many things as possible, and then you have the true social media managers that are going to be like, we're going to hire specifically for what we understand the social media should be doing, right? It's going to be up to the company's interpretation, and then again, contextually, there's you have to understand like it's not a blanket. I can't answer for like a blanket in a blanket to define everything because every single section and segment has its own interpretation of what social media manager can do. And then also, as we just priorly talked about, is every single section has a different value of what social media does for them as a business, uh, relative to everything, all the other channels that they've already created. So, yes, and also no. Yes, we're going to see it in sections where folks are, perhaps starting a new company and they just want everyone to be a quote unquote rock star at social media and do everything for the price that they're being offered. Um, no, for folks who are a little bit more established and get the right people in their company who can define what social media should be doing, and then also what assistance they need as a company, and then define what social media does for the company. Right? Is it a strictly top of funnel, or maybe we work backwards actually and start there? It's yes and no. Yes, because there's going to be companies who need social media to act as their awareness and acquisition channel. And then no, because you'll have companies who recognize it as what it should be, which is a top of funnel activity for awareness, and then use everything else and every other tool at their disposal to acquire customers. So I think that's my answer right
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate. Um I think it's the norm. And I think the best thing we can hope for is not regulation, because it's something that's very difficult to regulate. But I do think that until we see an effect on sales and data to back up that people tend to support brands that are not using AI, which is either really far down the line or really close. We don't know at this point with the acceleration of AI. I think that's where the shift is going to be. But until then, I do think that this is just going to be, unfortunately, the norm. And there's nothing wrong with upskilling yourself if you're a marketer or a social media marketer just to make yourself more valuable. Because in the long run, let's say this all reverts back to normal and all these jobs become individualized again. You now have a much bigger pool of roles that you can fit in. But now the devil's advocate part is the good that AI has done in terms of marketing, because it is, I agree with you, Rudy, a top of funnel activity. AI has helped a lot of people start businesses because the cost to enter, to market yourself, to build apps or, essentially, create products has lessened by a significant amount.
there.
So people that wanted to start their entrepreneurial journey have been able to start with a lot less friction. But back to, the main stance that I had, we are hitting such a massive inflow of everything new, everything looking the same, everything regurgitating, that, critical mass might appear at any point to readjust everything later on.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think
AI has its uses. AI has its, evils and misuses.
yeah.
It's just,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a tool, just like any other thing. It could be used for evil. It could be used for help to be helpful. Just to close off on that, I'll say it again. I think social media management is going to be defined by what is required, or what is what the channel is defined by the company. So if it's a again a top of funnel channel for the company, it's you're going to see a lot of true social media managers jumping on that, and that's what's going to be used for. Whatever tools that they use for to make that happen, to make that awareness happen, to make the graphics, to make the scheduling, the posts, the text, whatever it might be, that's going to be on them, right? It's also going to be if the company needs a social media channel, social media to be a top of funnel and an acquisition channel. Then it's going to then you're going to see people be 5, 10 different roles all in one to be able to accomplish just that for the most part. So that's the last thing I'll say on that.
Yeah, that is interesting. Maybe social media moving forward, instead of it being a blanket term, it should be reference to the KPIs and the overall objectives. So, social media manager
Yep.
with a focus on retention and acquisition. Social media manager with a focus on content creation and brand awareness.
I think those
Maybe.
I think those behaviors are a byproduct of the header, right? Which is like, is this a is this an acquisition channel? Is this an awareness and an acquisition channel? Or sorry, top of funnel and an acquisition channel? Or is it just a top of funnel channel? And then everything, all the other activities fall underneath that because the theme is defined, right? This is why I was saying
Yeah.
earlier, like what social media managers are going to be doing is going to be dependent on how they of the value that social media brings to the company itself, to the defined value that social media brings to the company itself. So if it is an awareness channel, that's going to define the activity that they're going to do, which includes stuff like graphics and videos, whatever. That's part of the mix of how you create awareness. If it's awareness and acquisition channel, then you're going to be tacked on and tasked with a bunch of other things as well that you have to additionally do to then help create those acquisitions directly from that you can attribute directly from your social media efforts, so that you can then prove value to the company because they're assessing your value as a segment based off of what you can produce, right? So that's what I mean by like it's defined just by the header. So depending on the value of social media to the company, that's where you're going to find those kinds of job postings. That's where you can see the differentiation in job postings, telling you how many jobs you have as a social media manager within one company.
Yeah, I agree. Kent, any other thoughts on this subject?
Uh, Not really, to be frank with you. I think we covered a lot, given our time, or I think we covered a lot in in the discussion. I think right now it's more we're at a phase where it's let's wait and see, but you can't really just sit still and wait. You kind of have to continue leveling up and see. So if any upcoming social media managers or specialists or coordinators want to get into the space, I think your goal right now is to find as many skills you can possibly learn, unfortunately, um, and hopefully find something, or find a company that'll let you in, because I guess this is another trend that's also going on because of AI's implementation and the heavy use, or at least the increased heavy use. A lot of entry level jobs are disappearing slowly but surely. So trying to get your foot in the door now is a lot harder than it was when we started. So
Yeah, with AI, these jobs like marketing, it's the competition has gotten a lot more fierce because multitude of reasons that we have gone over. But yeah, I mean, I think that's just general seeking employment advice. Upskill yourself, find multiple places where you can fit, and you'll find a role that hopefully helps add to your resume and validates that the skills that you have learned and have acquired during your period of unemployment or during your period of seeking employment.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess with that, that is today's show. And we will see you the same time, same place next week, unless we get a "we regret to inform you" email that breaks our spirits.
Alrighty, y'all. Until next time.
Going on.